The Pittsburgh Steelers have wasted no time making headlines at the start of the 2026 NFL offseason. Fresh off a 10-7 campaign that culminated in an AFC North Division title in 2025, the organization finds itself in a fascinating position, competitive, but still searching for the missing pieces that could elevate it from playoff participant to legitimate Super Bowl contender. At the center of it all remains the quarterback question, but as the front office works through that complex situation, another priority has quietly but clearly emerged: upgrading the wide receiver room in a meaningful way. The Steelers' offseason strategy appears to be operating on multiple tracks simultaneously. On one path, they are attempting to bring back veteran quarterback Aaron Rodgers, who guided the team to a division title last season. Rodgers' leadership, experience, and ability to manage high-pressure moments were instrumental in stabilizing the offense during stretches of adversity. However, as has been the case throughout much of his late career, uncertainty surrounds his timeline. Reports surfaced Tuesday revealing that Rodgers has set a deadline for announcing his decision regarding the 2026 season. While he is not expected to delay his choice as long as he did the previous offseason, when his decision came in June, the Steelers are clearly unwilling to sit idle while waiting for clarity. Pittsburgh's front office understands that in the modern NFL, contingency planning is not optional. It is essential. That reality explains why the organization has also been linked to a potential move involving Kyler Murray of the Arizona Cardinals. Murray's name surfacing in connection with Pittsburgh signals serious intent. While no deal appears imminent, the mere exploration of such a possibility underscores the Steelers' commitment to evaluating every viable quarterback pathway. Murray, still in his prime and possessing dynamic dual-threat ability, would represent a very different offensive direction compared to Rodgers' pocket-oriented mastery. Yet the willingness to consider both archetypes demonstrates organizational flexibility. Quarterback speculation has also extended to other veterans like Kirk Cousins, as well as potential rookie options such as Will Howard. By casting a wide net, Pittsburgh is insulating itself against uncertainty. Whether Rodgers returns, Murray becomes available via trade, or the team ultimately pivots toward a younger signal caller, the Steelers are positioning themselves to avoid being cornered into a single outcome. However, even the most talented quarterback cannot thrive without reliable weapons. That reality has shifted attention toward the wide receiver position. Despite having a premier deep threat in DK Metcalf, the Steelers recognize the need for a complementary playmaker, someone capable of commanding defensive respect and creating matchup stress across the formation. A true WR1/WR2 combination can fundamentally alter how defenses allocate resources, often dictating coverage shells and safety rotations before the snap. On Thursday, longtime Steelers reporter Andrew Filipponi revealed that Pittsburgh has engaged in discussions with the Jacksonville Jaguars regarding third-year wide receiver Brian Thomas Jr. The news immediately sparked intrigue across the fan base. Thomas entered the league with considerable promise and wasted little time validating the hype. As a rookie, he appeared in all 17 games and delivered an impressive stat line: 87 receptions, 1,282 receiving yards, and 10 touchdowns. Those numbers are not merely solid, they represent elite production for a first-year player adjusting to professional defenses. Thomas's combination of size, route-running fluidity, and ability to stretch the field vertically made him a difficult matchup for defensive backs. He displayed the body control necessary to win contested catches and the acceleration to separate on intermediate routes. In many respects, his rookie campaign suggested the emergence of a foundational offensive weapon for Jacksonville. Yet the 2025 season told a different story. Injuries, offensive inconsistencies, and schematic adjustments contributed to a sharp statistical decline. Thomas played 14 games but managed only 48 receptions for 707 yards and 2 touchdowns. The drop-off was dramatic enough to prompt questions about his trajectory. Was the rookie season an outlier? Or was the sophomore slump more reflective of situational factors rather than regression in talent? For the Steelers, that question is central. Evaluating Thomas requires separating context from capability. If Pittsburgh's front office believes his reduced production stemmed primarily from quarterback instability or offensive dysfunction in Jacksonville, then acquiring him could represent a classic buy low opportunity. Change of scenery narratives often dominate off-season discourse, but in some cases, they carry legitimate weight. A receiver's output is inherently tied to the efficiency and decision-making of his quarterback, as well as the creativity of the play caller. Imagining Thomas alongside Metcalf in Pittsburgh's offense opens intriguing possibilities. Metcalf commands attention with his rare blend of size and straight-line speed. Pairing him with Thomas would create a tandem capable of attacking defenses at every level, vertically down the sideline, across the middle on deep crossers, and in red zone isolation scenarios. Defensive coordinators would be forced to choose between shading coverage toward Metcalf or dedicating additional resources to contain Thomas's versatility. The quarterback variable once again becomes pivotal in projecting this potential move. If Rodgers returns, his precision and pre-snap diagnostic ability could maximize Thomas's route-running strengths. Rodgers has historically excelled at leveraging receivers who understand spacing and timing. Alternatively, if Murray were to arrive in Pittsburgh, his improvisational style and mobility could unlock Thomas's ability to extend plays and exploit broken coverage. Even a veteran like Cousins, known for his rhythm-based passing, might benefit from having two legitimate perimeter threats. And in the scenario where the Steelers draft a rookie such as Howard, surrounding a young quarterback with dynamic receiving options would ease the developmental burden significantly. From a financial perspective, acquiring Thomas would require careful calculation. As a third-year player still on his rookie contract, he presents cost-controlled upside, a valuable commodity in roster construction. However, any trade would likely necessitate meaningful draft capital. The Jaguars would need incentive to part with a player who, just a year ago, appeared to be ascending rapidly. Pittsburgh's willingness to engage in talks suggests they see enough upside to justify the exploration. There is also a cultural component to consider. The Steelers have long prided themselves on developing wide receivers internally. Over the years, the franchise has consistently identified and cultivated talent at the position through the draft. Pursuing a trade for Thomas would represent a more aggressive, externally focused approach. That shift aligns with broader indications that the organization is willing to operate differently this offseason, stepping outside traditional comfort zones in pursuit of roster upgrades. Timing will ultimately dictate whether this potential deal materializes. Rodgers' decision looms large over the entire quarterback market. Should he choose to return swiftly, Pittsburgh may feel emboldened to accelerate negotiations with Jacksonville, confident in the offensive structure they can present to Thomas. Conversely, prolonged uncertainty at quarterback could complicate discussions. Wide receivers, particularly young ones seeking long-term growth, often prioritize stability under center. Nevertheless, the very existence of these conversations highlights an important truth: the Steelers are not content to rest on last season's division title. They recognize the narrow margins separating contenders from champions. In a conference loaded with explosive offenses, standing pat is rarely sufficient. Enhancing the receiving core could transform an already competitive team into a far more dangerous postseason threat. As the offseason unfolds, multiple threads remain intertwined: Rodgers' looming decision, potential trade negotiations for Murray, speculative interest in Cousins, the development of rookie prospects, and now the possibility of adding Thomas to an evolving offensive core. Each scenario carries distinct implications, but together they paint a picture of an organization actively shaping its destiny rather than reacting passively. Whether the Jaguars ultimately pull the trigger on a Thomas trade remains uncertain. Deals of this magnitude hinge on valuation alignment, cap considerations, and long-term strategic vision. Yet for Pittsburgh, the willingness to initiate dialogue signals ambition. It reflects a franchise determined to maximize its competitive window while maintaining flexibility for the future. In the coming weeks, clarity will emerge. Rodgers will announce his decision. Trade rumors will intensify or fade. Draft boards will solidify. But one theme is already unmistakable: the Steelers are embracing calculated aggression. They are exploring quarterback solutions while simultaneously seeking to elevate the supporting cast. If those parallel efforts converge successfully, securing stability under center and adding a dynamic weapon like Brian Thomas Jr., the impact could be substantial. In a league defined by explosive offenses and razor-thin margins, bold offseason moves often separate hopeful contenders from legitimate threats. And Pittsburgh appears intent on making sure it remains firmly in the conversation. What changes do you expect to see in the Steelers? Which positions do you think most need strengthening on the team? Thanks for watching and see you soon.